one another, you'll read one side,
I the other.
but who will read now guess this riddle when the words are in the middle? The answer's easy,
Plain as pie.
we'll read together, you and I.
So that's paired reading, and that's really, there are different poetry books that are made for paired or even quartet reading, and of course little books like this that are fun for kids to be able to read, if they can read. But it helps them practice. They have to practice so they can perform for the class. So they have to have rehearsals and repeat over and over. Okay, let's do what? Let's do a choral reading real quick. I think we have time. Okay, this is a choral reading. Come out. Too much. Whoa. More. A little bit more. Right. I think that'll work. A little more in. Tiny. Is that better? That's good? Okay. Oh, perfect, perfect. Okay, this is for the three pigs, and it goes with a little chant. So you're going to do the wolf. You can divide if you do this with your class. I had it on a chart in school, but you could have some kids play the wolf and some kids play the pig. And this part down here is back to the wolf. So it's wolf, pig, wolf. When you get to the huffing and puffing, you have to huff and puff as you read. So here it goes. Once upon a time, there were three pigs. How many pigs?
Three pigs.
One pig built his house of straw. One pig built his house of sticks. One pig built his house of bricks. Along came the big bad wolf. Bad wolf, bad wolf. He knocked on the door of the first little pig. Rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat.
Little pig, let it come in.
Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin.
Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in.
So we puffed and he blew the house in. The first little pig ran to the house of the second little pig. Along came the big bad wolf. Bad wolf, bad wolf. He knocked on the door of the second little pig. Rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat.
Little pig, let it come in.
Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin.
Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in.
So we puffed and he puffed and he puffed, and he blew the house in. The first little pig and the second little pig ran to the house of the third little pig. Along came the big bad wolf. Bad wolf, bad wolf. He knocked on the door of the third little pig.
Rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat. Little pig, let me come in.
Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin.
Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in.
So he puffed, and he huffed, and he puffed, and he huffed, and he puffed, but he couldn't blow the house in. So the big bad wolf climbed up on the little pig's roof, and he looked down, chimney, 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 chimney. And what do you think happened next? So that's a choral reading. So you repeated the choral part each time, building fluency and automaticity every time. And another very important part of reading, of course, is vocabulary. A lot of the vocabulary unit is based on Bringing Words to Life by Beck, McCowan, and Kutan. And a lot has been revised to go with Common Core State standards. Words are very complex. They have many levels or layers, each of which is important and interacts with the others. We may know only the sounds and syllables of a word, or we may know the prefixes and suffixes and root words and what they mean. Or we may know the spelling of words and why things are spelled the way they are, what the word means, and other words that have similar meanings or lead to other meanings. And the least common of all knowledge of words is the origin of the word, which is even rarer still. And of course, first of all, kids learn words and vocabulary from oral language. And then they would learn from being read to, from watching TV. And then they also learn words that they can read themselves. But of course, young children's listening and speaking competence is way ahead of their reading competence. So the beginning is through oral language and being read to. And kids' books now have very rich language that makes real good read-alouds. So vocabulary instruction would begin with the context of the story, and then the teacher would help students understand how that word can be extended into other contexts, and hopefully, eventually, into their everyday language. I like to read a lot, and I keep a dictionary right by the chair where I read and have to look up words all the time. So I read a series of novels by one author, and the first book had the word detritus. So my first thought is, well, how do you pronounce that? So I look it up in the dictionary, get the pronunciation and the meaning, and the meaning was kind of clear from the context, but I wanted a more precise definition. So the next book in her series had the word detritus. I think, oh, now I remember how to pronounce that word, but what's that exact meaning again? So I look it up again. The third book in her series, there's the word detritus. I look it up again. It wasn't until I heard it used in conversation that it finally became part of my vocabulary repertoire. And kids need that drawing into everyday conversation too. There's too much vocabulary that's taught in school that kids don't use in their everyday lives. So it's really kind of tricky to try and get them to encourage them to use the words that they're learning. Students need more than just dictionary definitions. They need to know the association between and among words. And Beck's book is really good for that. But part of Common Core State Standards requires that kids know how to use the dictionary. Not all dictionaries are created equal. I have two dictionaries here to compare. I'm going to look up the word devious in the Oxford American Dictionary. Fortunately, I have it marked. Meaning one, winding roundabout. Meaning two, not straightforward, underneath.
Oh, it's like deviate.
Yes, yes. So that gives you a little bit of a definition, not one that kids would be tending to use in their own vocabulary, in their everyday language. This is the definition from the Collins-Cobild Learner's Dictionary. Devious, meaning one. You say that someone is devious when they achieve something in a clever, complicated, and dishonest way. By devious means, she tracked down the other woman. So you can see how specific this dictionary is. This dictionary would correspond beautifully to the information in bringing words to life. So this is a very expensive dictionary, but it's worth it. And of course, a school will not supply you with a dictionary like this. Well, there would be kids' dictionaries, but even this would not be a good dictionary to use in school because it's so
vague.
not user-friendly. It's not student-friendly definition. Vague, thank you. But you can get this one at Barnes & Noble. They have to order it because it's not on the shelf. So using the dictionary is part of the language strand in Common Core State Standards. And you probably have heard about the tiers of words. That's from Beck's book, Bringing Words to Life. And now you're going to pick up your Oreo or your cookie. And you're going to twist it apart. And these are tier 1 words. Tier 1 words are very basic words that kids generally know. Baby, happy, walk. They know these when they come to school. Here's the tier 2 words are the rich, creamy middle of the cookie. And they're the words that need to be taught because they're used by adult learners or educated adults, and they need to be in the student's everyday speech eventually. The other part of the cookie are the tier 3 words, and those are more domain-specific words that are taught in science or social studies, the arts. The reading tier 3 word is prosody. So this is a really good visual for the tier words. And now you can eat it. Albert, I used your cookie. We want to be able for kids to really have fun with words and to enjoy learning new vocabulary. And that's not easy if they just have to look words up in the dictionary and write the definition and use the word in a sentence and boring, you know? So there are books that are available to help kids foster word consciousness. Here are some little ideas. Have a word-rich environment, words all over your classroom, word walls, using words, sophisticated language. Kids always say, for addition and subtraction, they always say pluses and minuses, and it's really easy to adopt their language. But for them to be able to grow, you need to make sure that you're saying addition and subtraction, or plus and minus, not pluses and takeaways, so that their language will stretch to a more mature level. And to promote wordplay, I'll do that in just a minute. Reading and writing and revising writing helps word consciousness. Becoming word investigators. If you have never read the book Frindle, write that down. F-R-I-N-D-L-E. It's a kid's book, and it's about a 5th grader who is encouraged to learn. His teacher is a dictionary fanatic, and you'll have to read it. It's really, really good. He makes up his own word. The name of the book is Frindle, and that's the word he makes up.
F-R-I-N-D-L-E?
F-R-I-N-D-L-E. And it only takes an hour or 2 to read because it's a kid's book. It's not an in-depth study, but it's really a cute book for words. And words can have multiple meanings. In kindergarten, I would help the kids remember how to make things by having a rhyme. So the rhyme for number 5 was, put a hat upon his crown, that little 5 goes down the round. And of course, they know a crown as the hat that a king or queen would wear, but they didn't know that a crown could be the top of your head. And the top of the hat that goes on your head is also a crown. And a crayon is not the same as a crown. So just being able to expand the definitions to have more than one meaning is helpful. So, I want to go over some fun things, fun wordplay. Look in the canoe to find the paddle. Look on the horse to find the saddle. Let's see. Does a shovel dig a ditch? Does a broom ride a witch? No, a witch rides a broom. It has to be fun. And if you're having fun, or you make it seem like you're having fun even if you're not, then kids are going to have fun too. If it's going to be, that's going to turn them off just as it would turn you off. But of course, comprehension is the reason for reading. Phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, and vocabulary are all taught in VRI because those are the pillars that hold up the roof of comprehension. So you picture building, like a Greek temple, with the 4 pillars holding up the roof, and the roof is comprehension. So research doesn't call for first you learn how to decode, and then you learn how to comprehend. You have to have explicit decoding instruction and attention to meaning from the very beginning. Reading is purposeful and active. And kids have to be able to understand why they're reading, what they're reading, and what they're reading. There are all kinds of factors that can interfere or enhance comprehension. There are text structure factors. Some texts have very complex concepts, and they're not that easy to understand, and sometimes they presuppose that you know a lot more than you do to be able to understand the text. It can be very dense. And of course, readers' abilities vary in decoding and fluency and vocabulary, and that has an impact on reading comprehension. And prior knowledge, interest, and motivation are reader qualities that affect comprehension as well. So the purpose of reading is to comprehend the ideas on the page. So kids need to have strategies to deal with that meaning. Now there's a whole course, AFT has a whole course, reading comprehension instruction, that is nothing but comprehension and vocabulary, which is important to comprehension. Beginning reading instruction focuses on questioning that promotes comprehension. Studies have shown that focusing on questions is supported by evidence, Anderson and others, in 1985, but very often basal readers will have poor questions that really don't promote comprehension, especially now with the Common Core state standards. Common Core requires questions, requires kids to be able to answer text-dependent questions. And text-dependent questions do not depend on background knowledge. They don't depend on interest or motivation. They're dependent on referring back to the text to find the answer. And you can use the author's words. What does the author say about that? And there are text-dependent questions can only be answered by referring explicitly back to the text. Oh, I said that already. Right. The reader's feelings are not important. And often basal questions will ask things, well, how do you feel? How did you feel when so-and-so did something or other? Well, that's immaterial. It doesn't matter. It's not text-dependent. So when you start teaching, the readers that are being used in schools will not have the revised publisher's criteria because they'll be in the new books that you'll get eventually. Because new books are adopted every 5 years. So within the next adoption period, the new textbook should have text-dependent questions, but the ones that are in schools now probably don't. And so that makes it all the harder for you as a beginning teacher. But we do 2 questioning strategies in BRI. One is questioning the author, QTA, and that's based on Becca McCown's book, Questioning the Author, which has great text-dependent questions. They tell you how to ask text-dependent questions, because it has text excerpts for examples, but it's not, just so you know how to do it. And that's for during reading questions. And then story mapping is also taught in BRI, and those are for after reading questions to help kids develop a summary of the story. So now here we are back to our Twizzler. Reading is very complex. It involves skill mastery from several different but interdependent strands, and every strand is essential, but no one alone is sufficient. So this gives you an overview of the 30-hour course. Do you have any questions?
I'm not a reading teacher or anything, but is text-dependent questions bad?
No, you want them to be
Oh,
text
okay. I
dependent.
wasn't sure like how we felt on that.
Yes,
Okay.
the Common Core requires kids to be able to answer text-dependent questions. And when they begin testing for the Common Core state standards, in Florida, Florida's going to continue to use FCAT until, I'm thinking 2014.
Yeah.
2014 is when other states will start using tests that are based on Common Core. And there are two groups that are developing those tests. So in 2015, Florida will start using that also, and all of their writing and reading will be text dependent, or else their score will plummet.
Is BRI like a class that we take, or is that?
BRI is it's an in-service that's offered to teachers, already teaching teachers,
Oh, okay.
to help them become better reading teachers. But I've had people in my class that don't teach reading, but they wanted to know how to work with their grandchildren, or they wanted to know how to tutor kids, but they didn't teach reading in school. So, it has a wide variety of applications.